Okay, this morning we are talking with a labor commissioner candidate, Mr. Jason Moon. Mr. Moon, Jason, how you doing this morning?
Okay, very well. Thank you, Mr. Tom. All
Oh,
is well.
good.
Yes,
Good to
sir.
see you. And I know you've been telling me a little minute beforehand you got a new office set up there, and you're in Conyers, right? You're down in
Yes,
Conyers,
sir.
right?
We're in
Yeah.
beautiful Rockdale County, Conyers,
Hmm.
Georgia. That's where we're having the conference from.
Right.
But it's a wonderful moment. I'm happy to be with you, and thanks for having some time adjacent aside to speak with me. It's an honor.
Okay. Well,
Yes,
it's an honor
sir.
meeting you too. I always say this to all the candidates at some point during the interview. I appreciate what all you guys are doing. Running for state office is not it's not easy.
Yes, sir.
It's not easy. So I appreciate you taking a few minutes to talk with us here today. So what I do initially is basically give every candidate just 2 or 3 minutes or however long you need to just introduce yourself to everybody, say a little bit about who you are, your family, your faith, your work, whatever you want to talk about. It's up to you. So I'll turn the floor over to you now.
Yes, sir. And
Okay.
again, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well,
Yeah.
Tom, I'm Jason Moon, and I'm from beautiful Rockdale County, which is approximately about 30 minutes drive Highway 22 west to Atlanta,
Mhm.
Georgia. But, sir, in my profession, I work, for the United States Small Business Administration, which is the backbone of the small business labor force in the United States of America. As a federal professional service representative, I travel honoring presidential, declarations, and which are approved and ordered, when the governors of each state declare them. And once they do that, it initiates immediate support. And I travel to many cities, and when I arrive, then the U.S. agency, provides treasury loans. So basically,
Mhm.
Tom, when I get there, I help people to get back on their feet again. I help them with their homes,
Right.
to provide treasury loans after the natural storms. It's what I do. So it's a labor of love. And I network with the renters, the businesses, the 501c3 nonprofit organizations. We help people to rebuild in many cities in all 50 states around the country. That's my current profession. That being said, helping people in 50 states, Mr. Tom and Mary, it's what I do, professionally. And I love bringing hope and happiness, to a hurting, world. Additionally, I work for the Honorable U.S. Senator Max Cleland, 26 awesome years. He's my hero. He's a champion. And 71 campaigns nationally, in league with the leaders at the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee, right? So we
Mhm.
helped other people to get elected, presidents, congressmen, uh, business leaders, as well as even sheriffs in other states like in New York and New Jersey, around the country. And
Right.
in doing so, humbly, Tom, academically, I have a few degrees. I have a master's degree in public administration from the University of Georgia. I have a few others from Georgia Southern University, a bachelor's degree in political science and justice studies, and actually I have a master's graduate certificate in public and nonprofit management from Jack and Averett College in Statesboro, Georgia. It's been a wonderful life story. I wish I had more hours to talk about it, but keeping with the program, I'll keep it brief, but it is beautiful. Honor my personal family. My dad, he was a truck driver. He's my hero, as as well as my mom. I love him,
Right.
and when I think about him, I get I care so much. But
Right.
traveling, my dad, we worked around the country. My mother worked with the Fernbank Science Center, which is actually right beside, the Carter Presidential Center in Atlanta. So
Mhm.
growing up, I lived right down the street from the U.S. Senator Max Cleland. When I was 5 years old, then I moved here to Conyers, where we're currently giving the interview, which is, where I'm a native from.
Right.
This all being conveyed with you, I've worked in transportation and corporate sales at one of the world's third largest transportation companies. I managed millions of dollars, sir, and helped the people, helped the community. I've walked the picket lines for the unions. I've stood up, being a champion for Georgians when they needed me to. But I've also learned so much from our leaders. I've learned so much from my dad. I've learned so much from business leaders as well as political leaders. So I come from both sides of the tracks, and I hope that is helpful given the introduction.
Okay, well, thank you so much for sharing all that. I
Yes,
appreciate
sir.
that. And I had a little chance to meet Max Cleveland, a great guy.
Oh yeah.
So that's a great guy to be associated with. I know I can understand why you appreciated him so much. He was a very special man.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
so tell us why you decided to run for labor commissioner this year.
Yes, sir. Uh, I'm running for Georgia Labor Commissioner to continue the work, wonderful work that I started in corporate America. As a sales executive, again, I managed around $7 million per year in my budget. And as you know, Tom, this is equivalent to the budget that we have honoring the Georgia Department of Labor.
Mhm.
Humbly, I've been asked honoring, one of the chairmen of the Democratic Party, Mr. Keith McCants, a
Right.
wonderful man, and another one of the chairman of the Democratic Party, one of the 159 counties.
Mhm.
He had asked that I consider a bid. So with that, I've announced my bid, to become in this league. As I spoke with executives at large companies. I was informed about regulations, sometimes are very complex. So, simplifying the process is an issue, that I plan to resolve as a labor commissioner. A general document will be provided to the people who seek to start a business, right? People who want to
Right.
start a company. I want to simplify the process and provide them with a guide, and teach them about the risks associated with starting their own company. And again, speaking with these entrepreneurs, they told me about this as I was on the campaign trail. So, creating a document that simplifies the process to become a business owner, to be mindful of the risks associated with it, including tax law, including corporate law. There's a litany of
Mhm.
things that people need to know to be safe financially and responsibly. So, you know, uh, it must be acknowledged that we transform our labor force. There are wonderful workers at the Department of Labor, but they do need to be, provided with some additional information about really how to help people open the doors to new companies. Because the more they know, the further we go as Americans in the state of Georgia. So we must protect Georgia's culture as well, regarding entrepreneurship, keep our people safe at the same time. Uh, Tom, I've been giving it some thought. Um, there's many different points of view that we could take in this, approach, but I want to go ahead and tell you, but the reason why I'm running for this office, first and foremost, I have to mention this. I know you're in the Northern Territory of Georgia,
Yeah.
but the farmers are really important at this time in my
Right.
life. They are experiencing tough times in South Georgia. Um, I'm concerned about them, Tom. I'm
Yeah.
worried, that they're not going to have, the things that they need. But again, I'll just jump right into the speech. I didn't want to stray, but
Okay.
uh, let me just say this. I am the most qualified man and candidate to lead the state agency with vision, experience, knowledge, and common sense, stemming from the 8,000, 9,000 companies I did business with. I did business in the Savannah area, the northern territories of Georgia, such as Gainesville, Hall County, Oakwood, Dahlonega, Brazelton, all those communities up
Right.
there. So as I
Right.
evolved into corporation sales, I led and worked with the best in businesses for many years. I managed millions of dollars in corporate America, and I networked with wonderful leaders, such as the U.S. Senator we spoke about. I'm running for Georgia's Labor Commissioner because humbly and absolutely, I really am the most qualified candidate honoring this standard election process. This is why you and I are conversing today, and I'm so honored, Mr. Tom, being with you. But it's about the people, it's about the experience, it's about the qualifications, and it's about the common sense. And I've already been their voice for many years in a variety of roles, right? I've been there, starting as a humble dock worker, working my way up through corporate America, becoming a corporate sales executive, managing humbly 7 million a year. So I paid my dues in the factories as well as helping these people in the manufacturing plants and the assembly lines. I'm no stranger to every walk of life, and I've been an extension of their voice in labor and business. It's been an honor working in Georgia with these people. I've loved every moment. I used to secure $1 million bids with the corporation leaders in their companies, many presidents, many executives, and that has led to success. And we accomplished wonders together in supply chain management. Me as a corporate sales rep, providing solutions to their factories and incentive and concepts to involve the workers. And I would, take care of the leaders as well as the workers. And that's the purpose of the Georgia Department of Labor, to be both a voice for the workforce and the entrepreneurs, because again, we're not going to have successful people, workers, unless we have successful companies. And that's where I step into the picture. And many years together, it's been successful and it's been awesome, humbly. Yes, sir.
Thank you. So if we boil that down, what would you say? You gave the reason why you're running. What would you say if you had two issues, or you can make it three, but just to say two. If there were
Yes,
two
sir.
issues specifically that you wanted to tackle as labor commissioner, what would they
Well, I'll go ahead and just jump right in this.
be? Okay.
Um, well, let's start from the perspective of the entire, state of Georgia,
All
because
right.
that's what, as Georgia Labor Commissioner, in a statewide election, we must be compassionate, honoring every single voice, right? We have to be inclusive. And
Mm-hmm.
as such, that's also why I'm in this campaign. I want to be a voice for every human being. But to honor just your, wonderful question, I want to say this. Each issue is important and deserves respect. But as I've traveled and spoken with the several workers, right, and entrepreneurs, academics,
Right.
and the farmers, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, and the disabled community and retirees, we must address the farmer crisis in rural Georgia to begin with. Number one issue,
Okay.
because, sir, the government may have been shut down for 30 days recently, but farmers have been, they have been shut out of the process for 30 years in terms of
Right.
getting financial equity and loans, right?
Right.
Small corporate America has access to millions of dollars, but, sir, the farmers have been, fraught with challenges. It's hard for them to get
Mm-hmm.
money, to sustain the harvest at times, with the
Right.
immigration crisis. It's really, something that we're trying to resolve. But so, encouraging a new federal loan program designed for farmers is an idea that is extremely important to me. And I floated the concept with actual farmers in South Georgia. We spoke, and they said, Jason, if you're successful in this innovative idea, providing loans to farmers, federal loans, then it's going to be a big help to rural Georgia and all of our farmers because we'll be able to sustain the winter and the harvest, and we'll be able to maintain our, business facilities, right? We can work on our
Mm-hmm.
equipment, take care if there's a drought, we can maintain the equipment, take care of the workforce, and hire temporary workers. So, with all things being considered, we need to be able to access wealth for farmers as
Right.
easily as companies are able to access financial prosperity. Another issue, Sir Tom, is simplifying the pathway, to entrepreneurship. We spoke about that just a few minutes ago briefly.
Right.
But to make a long story brief, I sat down and had dinner with some business executives, and their thoughts are one and the same with ours, right? Um, the purpose of the Georgia Department of Labor is to help both the workforce initiatives, federally subsidized, right?
Right.
But we need to also understand that business is complex. And I come from corporate America. So we need to be able to help people, to get through navigating the complexities of being an entrepreneur. So I'm going to produce a one-page summary of a how we must approach business in Georgia for all our companies. Very simple, which keeps people advised about the risks associated with starting a company. The tax laws are very complicated, and there's financial penalties, Tom, that are associated with every American. If something is not, accomplished at a certain time and a certain date, then they're penalized thousands of dollars, sometimes $10,000 per document if it's not, provided just as a written requisite, right?
Mm-hmm.
Honoring
Right.
pro forma communication. So I want to simplify the process with Georgians where they won't have
Okay.
to worry about, oh, my word, did we do this? Shouldn't we have approached, studying this topic more so than the other? So I want to have a list of priorities, Mr. McMahon, about where business owners who want to achieve the American dream, where they begin, and where they'll be mindful of the certain categories, sectors,
Right.
where there's pitfalls, where their financial, punishment for not honoring the state tax law. It's really complicated. And that's what they
Yeah.
told me, sir. And I promised them that I would echo their voice as we're talking today, to help
Right.
them to navigate those challenges in the future. So, but this is where I step in with the workers to have successful companies. And then that's going to resolve in us having successful workers. They work in tandem, and, you know, kindness and talent is a winning combination, right? And so
Right.
is being professional, as you are, as well as being understanding the doctrines of business. There is a list that we must honor, but if we do not stay on track when starting a new company, it could cost us more money opening up business than originally had thought, anticipation of starting a business. It gets expensive. Companies have
Hmm.
to be bonded. Certain companies have to honor, approval. There's licensing.
Right.
It's really complicated, even though the Secretary
Right.
of State, usually handles most of that. And
Right.
I hope we must find that balance,
Yeah.
in the public and private sector regarding, information and the digital divide of the knowledge. And I plan to
Right.
provide that in very easy paperwork on a one page, most important, priority.
Okay. Well, thank you. You answered actually most of the next question. So I'll only just say, let me just add a little bit to that.
Yes,
I
sir.
know that the Labor Department has been shutting offices. That's been kind of shrinking. Do you think that's a situation that needs to be reversed, that there need to be more labor offices around the state to help workers apply for things or to help them do some job searching, that sort of thing? As labor commissioner, would you sort of pursue that, or do you think that's a
Yes, sir.
priority?
Well, I want to say this, and I know we're kind of going off script,
Right, a little bit.
but your
Yeah.
question is important, and you're right. The downsizing of the Labor Department is going to result, in my humble opinion, it's going to congest the process of seeking entrepreneurial prosperity and hope. And this is why. We are already on a fixed strained budget at $8 million.
Right.
dollars. I realize that if you minimize the size, the downsizing, that will suffice in easing the burden of the budget, right? If you have an
Right.
$8.6 million budget, which we have right now, certainly downsizing is going to make the American dollar go further as we subsidize the workforce programs and initiatives. But we also receive a buffer from the federal government that is intended for these workforce programs. So we
Hmm.
shouldn't be downsizing if we already have the money there. But I agree that there is a calling, in Georgia that we concentrate on how the money is spent and scrutinize. I know we're talking volumes about how we need to invest in technology, but with all honesty, Mr. McMahon, sir, Tom, with all honesty, we have numerous other departments who are also have very thin budgets, but they've been successful in managing money and achieving the goals and the parameters of their department. So the Department of Labor has had their experience of challenges, right? So, all things being conceived, it would be wonderful to have a $20 million budget. Certainly, we could invest in all the technological work programs that we are instructed to do so with Georgia's, many different technical colleges to carry out the training initiatives. And that would help, go a long way if we were able to streamline that. But right now, every dollar is pretty much accounted for in the way that we do business. So that money that we have, the 8.6 million, that accounts for workforce training, that accounts for so much, the 4,000 employees, and that's not even involving the 2+ billion-dollar trust fund that we need to secure and increase so that we can subsidize uninsurance benefits guaranteed and promised by the state of Georgia. So, downsizing is wonderful in theory, but in practicality, we're trying to catch up with people who are, facing deficits. We're not at that 75% ratio of paying our people what they're entitled to receive. We're trying, but we have been in the act of blaming it on technology. And I'm simply saying that we never experienced problems technologically previously, but now they seem to be dominating the headlines with the Georgia Department of Labor. I think that we have wonderful people. I think that the idea is really, yeah, we need excellent technology, but Georgia's always been on the leading forefront of technology in the university system, which is with the University of Georgia, Georgia Southern University, Georgia Technical Colleges. They're already leading on the initiative in technology. So we have the ability. I'm not saying there's not room for
Right.
improvement, but we have the technological ingenuity. We've proven it. We've led with it. We've championed causes, and we've succeeded in enterprise and training. So we're not reinventing the wheel. But yeah, reducing the size of government is always good to run a lean budget, but it is complicated when factoring in what we already owe, and we're already, behind on what we owe these people. People are complaining we're not getting our unemployment checks on time, and that's caused a travesty. And what do we do next? So what I would do is I would propose, you know, supplementing the budget another 6 million, maybe another 10 million, as others have. We know that the current labor secretary was not successful in, a lockstep general assembly. She asked for 10 million. It didn't materialize. She is a reporter at source. She comes from Puerto
Mhm.
Rico, but a wonderful woman nonetheless, and tapped by the governor to lead. But I want to set an example of what can be accomplished when we work hard, when we work intelligently, and we budget proficiently. I think that we have brilliant workers in the Department of Labor, and I think if we give them the resources and the tools, I think that they can achieve on a lean budget that which she believes that we can achieve with $20 million. I think we can do it at 16 million proficiently.
Mhm.
But I hope that answers your question about a
Yeah.
streamlined budget and challenges that are pressing. That's my
Yeah.
hope. But
Okay. Well, thank you. I mean, you gave us a lot of details out there on the issue side, I think, and that's good.
yeah,
I appreciate that. Let's switch over a little bit and talk about just politics now. You're going to be running in a primary that's pretty filled right now, as many as five candidates so far. So runoffs are likely. Then let's say if you get past that, you've got combined campaign where you're running as the labor
yeah,
commissioner candidate for the party.
yes, sir.
So just I always give a little warning and a little leeway to the candidate that you don't have to give me any of your campaign secrets or anything about how you're running your campaign. So don't worry, don't give away the farm. I'm just saying,
Yes, sir.
just give us an idea about from your political experience, how do you see running this campaign in the primary, in the general election? What will you bring as a nominee for that? What about fundraising? All those things. Just tell us what your sort of vision is for how we do a winning campaign here for labor commissioner and for the larger state in general. Just whatever you want to pass along there.
Yes, sir. I'll say this because I spoke with the other chairman right before we spoke, and we
Hmm.
talked about some wonderful initiatives. Insofar as, again, if I win the primary, I think is what we're
Right,
talking about here.
right,
Um, what we need to do without, as you said, giving up the ship. It's okay to convey secrets as long as it transforms our people and society, but we need about $800,000 to
mhm,
run, $800,000 to $1 million to run a successful campaign, to win a statewide election. That's what it's going to take to get this accomplished. This is an approximation, given the theory of accuracy with all things being pondered. My thinking is to secure support with other candidates and add their strengths to align themselves with my campaign as we approach this journey. We launched maybe at $15 for 159, county campaign, which is what the Honorable Keith McCantis has suggested. We
yeah,
get people basically to play in our county campaign, and we encourage them to pledge a certain amount of money to raise in their county. Working class voices for Jason Moon, actual workers in company who I did business with in the 9,000 companies, to have videos of these people that will speak volumes about what we did and providing solutions to their companies. I did business with many companies around the state, Braswell Foods. We did business with Hobart PMI Corporation. We provided time sensitive ideas that help people and reduce their labor costs at companies. But staying with the campaign, we could merge these other questions together, but
right,
um, you know, there's so many things where we could begin, but we must look at what makes campaigns successful, which is the grassroots campaign, right? The canvassing, knocking on the doors, having a well planned mail in and coordinated campaign, right? So
mhm,
this primary, to win this successful campaign, this is my opinion, we need to provide our union networks. I used to walk the picket lines to stand up for workers in the factories. I'm no stranger to the rain on both sides. I've negotiated $1 million deals, and bids at the table, as well as working hard in the factories. I come from both worlds, both sides of the tracks.
right,
But your question, how do we make this, how do we turn this into success on a campaign without giving away secrets? Well, hard work is the secret, right? Discipline, you know, getting up early in the morning, making phone calls, keeping promises, county engagement, right?
right,
Credibility, asking people to give 25, $15 here and there. I have an Act Blue account with the federal government that will accrue and help to subsidize the campaign. We have donors that want to give in kind contributions,
mhm,
regarding the feasibility to achieve the dreams of being the labor commissioner. We get people involved. We try to channel their voices into hope, but to do that, it takes money. We have to tell and document their stories of success when I was in corporate sales and when I worked with these people in South Georgia as well as in North Georgia in the mountains. When I was in Dahlonega, Gainesville, Georgia, which is in Hall County, and Oakwood, at the Wrigley's Gum Factory, Mecklenburg
Yeah.
Duncan, Lanier Corporation. I used to be a dispatcher in all these cities with these companies, but I have a few coded accounts, Mr. Tom, where I could go to these businesses, shake their hands, learn about their assembly lines, and get them involved in the process of transportation in general. So helping people to navigate the system is important, but bringing them back into the picture to support this campaign is going to be the key in gaining their. They already trust me, right? So winning their support has already been achieved. Transitioning that to a political platform is just simply reminding them of what we once did in business together. We can do it
Right.
again politically.
All right. Thank you. And you're right. I think we did combine several of those questions there. I appreciate that. Some of these are sort of pretty close to each other anyway. But so we're
Yes, sir.
kind of we talked a lot about issues. We talked some about what your vision of a campaign looks like. So we're kind of moved through most of this now. I was going to start this into the wrapping it up phase, where I always do this for every candidate. We've heard from you now on a lot of things, but here at the end, let's give you a chance to give your, I guess you could say, your stump speech that you're going to give about why Georgia voters should vote for you and make you the next labor commissioner of the state of Georgia. If you want to move into that, let's do that, and to wrap
Yeah.
things up here.
Yes, sir. Awesome. Well, if I may, what I'm going to do, Tom, if I may, I'm going to kind of converge two philosophies together while we're
Yeah,
talking. Please, sir. Just want to, the my 60, second summary as well as the,
right,
the business, Georgia to be in the best business to do business in. I
right.
wanted to say, well, Tom, let's talk about the future in Georgia as it looks bright. With the new Georgia Ports Authority on the way in Gainesville, Georgia,
Hmm.
where I used to work, the new jobs produced will be immediate, sir, right? There'll be around 10,000 awesome jobs established right away. This is a huge win for Georgia. The new port will provide millions of new startup companies and logistics brokering jobs, which bring in about $35 million a month, where I come from, and new warehousing jobs for the workers. And I was trained at the Georgia Ports Authority when I was in corporate sales. So I know how the longshoremen work. I know how the international ports works. I grew up in the business and I was in the traffic club for many years with the leaders of the Georgia Ports Authority. This being conveyed, I did want to express with you that this is a huge win for Georgia, and this will provide new job opportunities for startup companies in Georgia, right? So
Hmm.
this is a wonderful anticipated expansion of the Georgia Ports Authority. It's attractive to hard workers, right? And workers' rights and state wages around. People will be paid honest wages, continuous, job opportunities, expansion. It's just going to continue. So the future is very bright for Georgia and the job sector. We have thousands of new jobs on the way, but we need to continue in advertising the impact, right, of the
Right,
expansion of the Georgia Ports Authority. Alabama has just proposed to build a new port, which is identical, Tom, to Georgia's new port in Gainesville, Georgia, up there in Hall County. True story. So they have
right.
built a brand new port based on our success. So it's promising insofar as maintaining the state's high, rating for business while also practicing safe standards in the safety workplace. But since I was trained there, I think you'll agree that we have the best practices, with OSHA, just saying with safety precautions
Hmm.
with the people who handle it. But we've already set the pace for doing things the appropriate way in our Georgia ports, which is part of Georgia's infrastructure. So anything that expands upon Georgia establishments is only going to complement what we do. But
Okay.
in summary, all things being conveyed, in conclusion, uh, why should primary voters vote for me? Why should we do this? Why? Well, I guess my question, humbly, Mr. Tom, Mr. McMahon, is why not? You know, um, why not vote for Jason? Uh, Primary voters will most likely vote for me because I'm one of them, right? I've talked the
Right.
talk, I've walked the walk in their communities. I've supported 9,000 companies. My service as a public servant in the state and corporate sales executive world has provided accountability as well as trust and respect. Uh, the campaign is about fairness and dignity in raising the standards, Tom, to where they need to be, the way Georgia used to be.
Right.
We must remember where we came from. And I've been in public and the private sector for so many years, 36 to be exact. And in doing so, we've had successful years. I was able to build friends, build friendships. I was able to network with success to this very day. And primary voters will be confident, right, in knowing that they have a leader with Jason Moon as the next Georgia Labor Commissioner. We've been there with him in the beginning. Multiple degrees, the master's degrees, the bachelor's degrees, they're nice and wonderful to put on a wall. But I've also been out there rolling up my sleeves in the labor unions. I've been out there feeding these people. I fed 200,000 people in Atlanta, Georgia. It took me 6 minutes when I was eating dinner with a U.S. senator. These are things that we have to account for that are not planned. We have to be innovative. We have to adapt to the changing world. That includes labor, business, politics, and government. We must evolve. The world is not going to wait for us. It's just like, last year, right? Remember when we had all the ships building up in the harbor in Savannah,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
Everybody panicked because we couldn't get the goods to market. We had 70 ships in the ocean, and if we were to line up all those tractor trailers from Savannah, Georgia, Tom, they would go all the way to Macon, Georgia. If every
Mhm.
truck was to be lined up, that is only on one ship, right? That is
Right.
15,000 containers on a Pan American vessel. That's how much business. So you can imagine if one ship is going to account for 76 miles of tonnage in tractor
Mhm.
trailers. Imagine what the new Georgia Ports Authority is going to do for the Georgia worker. So we have exciting times approaching in business that the workers can be confident in. We can celebrate, together the trust that's on the way. It's being
Right.
built. It was subsidized with the federal government, 50%. But again, the purpose of the Labor Department is to be a voice for the workers as well as being a resource for Georgia corporations. And humbly, I've been on both sides of the tracks with both the workers and the corporations. And again, together we can make a difference. But truthfully, Tom, kindness and talent is a winning combination. We can be the smartest people and qualified, but if we do not have that common sense and we do not have that kindness factor in wanting to help our people with genuine compassion, we're not going to be as successful as we could be. I think we're on track. I think we have a long way to go, but I think that electing the next Georgia Labor Commissioner is very important. And that's why I accepted the bid because, again, I am the most qualified man for the job, but I'm humble, Tom. I'm not one for tooting my own horn. It's not my thing, but it's
Right.
important in these beginning, conversations.
Right.
So the question is, why not vote for Jason? I've paid my dues. People trust me around the state of Georgia. About 80 counties, 9,000 companies, as well as 4 degrees. And I currently work as a federal agent with the United States Small Business Administration for the White House. So this is just who I am. We help people on the front lines during storms. I've helped people in corporate America with their supply chain management and provided solutions. And I've also been with them on the union lines when they needed representation and they needed strength to weather the storms with raising food and money to support noble causes. And I hope that this is acceptable what I've provided today. And thank you so much. Thank you. It's an honor and a pleasure to meet you. Again, many people and the chairman, other chairman of the party, they've spoken about you and they said,
Right.
he's a wonderful man. And
Well, I appreciate that, Jason. I appreciate everything you said. You have a very articulate and clear vision, I think, for what you want to do as the labor commissioner. It's
yes,
been an
sir.
honor to talk to you today. It's the first time we've had a chance to talk face to face, and I appreciate your time doing this.
Yes,
And
sir.
it's been wonderful, and I wish for you all the best. I know we're going to see each other at times. You'll be up to our way. We'll have our events and stuff on Mobilize and other apps that you can you're always welcome to join us here in Dade or in any of the
Awesome.
counties of North
Yeah.
Georgia. So,
Awesome.
so
Yeah.
feel free to come up anytime. And I just wanted to say thank you again and hope to see you again really soon.
Yes, sir. You're most welcome. Sir.
Bye bye.